Hey guys, this is AJ, also known as iBots. Today I'm here to show you the STRIX Screech. I'm going to show you the packaging, what it comes with, and how to build it. So this comes with your 3D prints. It's designed for mini and micro cameras. The dry frame weight is under 100 grams, and then the TPU prints are 21 grams. So let's go ahead and get started here. This is the GoPro session mount. This is orange TPU. There is orange and a black version. We carry both. So this is the print that goes on the top deck with 4 screws. This GoPro session mount mounts to this mount like this. And then you'll put some standoffs in here and screw some screws down into the standoffs on each side. So you can easily remove that if you want to race. You also have your 2 FPV camera mounts that fit the mini and the micro cameras. And this is for your video transmitter antenna that sticks straight out the back. It's designed for SMA. And then you have your RC link antennas that stick out the back. It also comes with all your hardware that you'll need and 2 antenna tubes that will fit into there that are clear. I'll get into the hardware here in just a second. You have 2 straps. These are your straps. These are vinyl. They're a little bit thinner than most straps. They are a little bit longer as well, as they are 15 millimeter by 250 millimeter. The reason why is because most people are going to 1550, 1600 milliamp hour batteries on 4S. And if you're using double lock or any kind of pad or anything like that, you really need that extra strap. If you're running 1300s, you may have to trim the edges off of these just a little bit. They're a little bit long. And then you also have your 2 arms, your bottom deck. This is what mounts your arms to the bottom deck, and your top deck. It comes with this blue packaging here, this plastic. It's almost like a saran wrap or vacuum, I don't even know what to call it, but it's not the easiest to get undone right off the bat, but once you do, it gets a lot easier. All right. So as you can see, it sticks to the actual carbon. And then you just pull it out. So another thing that you're going to notice right off the bat is that this is 2 arms as opposed to 4. And the reason why is because we didn't want to have to add a whole bunch of hardware to lock everything in place. We wanted to keep minimal hardware, minimal weight, and still have it be rigid and not have to worry about arms shifting and crashes. It comes with 8 knurled standoffs. These are 20 millimeters tall, and these will be used for your top deck and your bottom deck. You don't need to use all 8. You really only need to use 7. However, if you want to use this antenna mount and have everything come out directly out the back, you'll need to use all 8. The reason why we've done this is we've given an extra option to mount just 1 standoff instead of 2. You can minimize hardware, and sometimes people run video transmitters with an offset SMA. So if you want to run that, you have the option to run out on either side by just using 1 standoff. With this setup, you can run 5.5-inch props with stock arms. So before I go too much further, these are the 2 standoffs that go inside of the top TPU print that holds the GoPro session on. So you'll want to just barely stick it in on one side and then do the other as well. And once you get it pushed in halfway, you're going to want to then press it in. If you try and go in at one side at a time, it's not going to fit in there correctly. So you have to just barely start it on one side and then kind of press the other in. And then press them all the way in until they bottom out. So as you can see there, you can see all the way through. Next up is your antenna tubes, which these will go inside of here. I like to push them as far through as possible, and then only trim as much as I need to if I absolutely have to. And then just cross them like this. All right, so for the rest of your hardware, you have a Ziploc bag here. And you'll notice right off the bat, there's these 4 capture nuts. Okay, so first things first, we'll need to install the capture nuts into the bottom deck. Now, the other option is you can install these capture nuts into the arm secure piece and then mount so that the arms are inside of the frame like this. The only issue is there's 4 standoffs that go inside the frame like this right here. So you'll need a different size standoff if you want to mount like this. The hardware that we've provided for you is meant for these capture nuts to be installed on the bottom deck. There's a small recess in the bottom deck where you can install your capture nut. Now you may think that this is too loose and they're not going to work, but you actually have to clamp down on these to install them. There's a few different ways you can do that. The easiest way to install these is if you have a vise, and you'll just take it and slide it in between the vise and then clamp down and press in. There's a slight knurled edge on these capture nuts, and that's what you actually want to get in. It's going to take quite a bit of force to get them in. Another way to install these would be to use some vice grips. So you're going to want to get 2 pieces of plastic to sandwich these between with, and then clamp down. You're going to have to set this just right. So you're going to want to set the thickness just slightly around where you want it to be. You may have to experiment with this a few times, and then clamp it down. And the reason for the plastic is because these edges are knurled, and you don't want to end up messing up your carbon fiber because of that. So you'll take and put your capture nut on the inside hole where it's recessed. Take a piece of plastic, set it on top, and then set another piece on the bottom. Again, so that way you don't damage your carbon fiber. You're going to want to get it right on the pressure point here so that you get the most amount of leverage. And then you're just going to clamp down. As you can see, that got it. There's still just a very light amount of knurling left here. So I'm going to adjust my clamps in just slightly, about 1/4 to 1/2 turn. And lock it down one more time. All right, that got it on that one. There's no gap now in between the capture nuts and the carbon. All right, so now that we got this done, you'll see that we have 8 long screws, 8 medium screws, and 8 short screws. You have your 8 standoffs here. So let's go ahead and install your standoffs to the bottom deck. First, you'll take a small screw, stick it in the very back where the 2 holes are, unless you decide that you want to run just 1 standoff in the back, right here. In our case, we're going to run 2. This is the front camera bay area. So let's go ahead and install this again with the small screws. I should say short screws, not small. Notice that the standoffs are on the same side as the capture nuts. Our goal now is to get the arms installed. You can mount it either front, but it's designed to be run like this. And the reason why is because we want to keep the tension off the center of the frame. We just want to make it like this. That'll add some strength. We've tested it both ways and really have never had an issue. The only thing we've ever broke on this frame was arms, which we seem to have addressed. Obviously, it's carbon fiber. These will still break, but we've had really good success with the current revisions and mounting the arms like this. Since we're not using the capture nuts on this capture plate, we're going to put the recesses against the arm. You're going to take the longest screws and go to the outside hole. Go ahead and take a standoff and screw it down. All right, once you get that one on, you'll go ahead and do the next one. And then take your other arm, which it's basically identical, but to install it, you're going to need to flip it over. So take another long screw and stick it through the outside hole. So from here, it depends on kind of what you want to do and how you want to build your frame up. Me personally, I like to run a 4-in-1 ESC, and that's kind of what this frame was designed for. Either way, you're going to want to run this last set of long screws through. I guess I should mention as well, this frame does offer the possibility for 20mm mounts if you want to use those as well. You don't necessarily have to use these capture nuts either. This just makes it easier for arm changes. All right, so now that I've got this last flight controller screw in, the way I typically mount my 4-in-1 is by putting a rubber or silicone O-ring on top of this capture nut and then slide my 4-in-1 over that. Sometimes 4-in-1s will have FETs that could possibly touch these capture nuts and then end up causing issues. So this is just an extra layer of protection. All 4-in-1 ESCs are slightly different, so it just depends. I would recommend it on no matter which one you're using, just to be safe. There's enough screw length in here for you to run a rubber or silicone O-ring, the 4-in-1 ESC or PDB, and then you can mount a nylon standoff on top of that for your rest of your flight controller stack, or you could even use a soft mounting standoff to go on top of that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this off by putting on the TPU mount for the antennas, the TPU mount for the FPV cameras, and now the top deck. So from here, you want to use the 4 short screws, and those all go in the back where the battery goes. Next up is the top mount for the GoPro. These use the medium screws. And then your GoPro mount, now that you've already installed your standoffs into this mount, we'll just screw in with the 4 last medium screws. Again, this is the orange TPU. We do also have this in black. Those are the 2 options you have for our TPU. So last of all, let me show you how to mount these STRIX straps. I use the Tattoo 100C 1554S packs, and this is how I mount them. With top mount batteries, you want the battery to be as secure as possible. You don't want it shifting around and potentially getting hit by a prop. Now, with a 5-inch prop, you have a little more clearance. With a 5.5-inch prop, you are right on the edge of the battery. So you want to make sure that this battery is secured as well as possible. As I go in with the STRIX logo up and go into this slot first, and then I pull it all the way through. So I like the ring to be right there on the carbon. Put your battery on and wrap it around. Generally ends up being right about there. That's about where the logo falls for me when I mount it with double lock tape. If you're running a smaller battery, it's going to stick further. You're still going to have a ton of surface area covering your Velcro. You just may need to trim it up. I always run 2 straps no matter what. So another way to mount it, if you don't want to run the double lock tape or any kind of other padding right here, is you can mount it by using the STRIX logo up again, but instead of going down into the hole, you're going to come up out of it, just like this. And you go all the way until the D-ring stops here. You're going to go back over and down, just like this, and suck that down all the way tight. From there, you can come back over and then cinch it up. That wraps it up for the STRIX Screech. That's the basic assembly.